we have seen a couple of very difficult days for your party and for Imran Khan. What do you make out of this decision, which have really shocked the entire Pakistan, if not the world?
Thank you very much for having me in. I was hearing Itazaz Saab, and I think he has thrown ample light on the legal aspect of the case. I would also touch on that, but for me, the most important part is that where is my country headed? If such be the state of the judiciary and such be the degradation that has occurred in the society, then where are we headed? What do we want to turn this country into? That's something which is really casting a dark shadow on the entire society. Uh, the least said, the better about the judgments. Obviously, they are worse than the kangaroo courts. These are all premeditated, pre-orchestrated, preordained judgments, which had been possibly scripted, a number of days ago, and they were going through the retinue of making it appear like a hearing, like a case, which it was not. Ultimately, I think we were given to understand, that they wanted the judgment out. The powers that be wanted the judgment out before the elections, a few days before the elections, so that they're able to drive a feeling of despondency among our voters, and sort of convince them to stay away from the polling stations. This has been the strategy, on which they have been working for some time. So the last couple of days, were the worst, when it comes to jurisprudence, and following the constitutional and legal sort of benchmarks in conducting. A case inside a courtroom. So they were completely mutilated, and the judges literally, looking downwards, as if they were scared of looking at Khan's face. They just pronounced the judgment, and literally rushed out, as if they were going to be hit if they stayed back in the court. So it's a moment of shame. In the words of Faz, ये मातम वक्त की घड़ी है. तो ये मातम वक्त की घड़ी है मेरे भाई इस वक्त इस मुल्क के लिए that this we are virtually overpowered by a bunch of crooks who are manipulating every institution of the country and have virtually forced them into becoming subservient to a singular diktat. We don't even know the source of that diktat, but obviously your guess is as good as mine, or my guess as good as yours. So I don't know. My concern is that I don't know where are we headed. What are we going to turn this country into? And I think it's time that we cast off the sham of democracy that we continue preaching to the world. We are not a democracy, and the way we are going, we shall never be a democracy. As a matter of fact, whatever traces of democracy we had been able to germinate in the society in the last 3 decades or so, they have been hit for a six. They have gone out. We are a very cruel, a very autocratic state. Which is subservient to a singular diktat whose source is also unknown. So these are my sort of fears. These are my sort of emotions. People like me who committed to living in this society, who opted not to leave here. Not that I did not get chances. I got many chances. I could have left this country. But I said, no, this is my country and I'm going to stay back here. Now, at this late age in my life, I asked myself, what is my rationale to continue living here? And what was my rationale when I initially decided that, okay, this is my country and this is where I'm going to be? Our children, our middle class people, educated background children, they just walk up to their parents and say, "Sir, we don't have any hope. You're not going to stay here." I have 2 children. None of them wants to stay here. One is already settled in England, been there for more than 2 decades, and my daughter would leave any day. So what hope? They say there's no hope here. The word they use is very, very, very symptomatic. Of the deep despondency which unfortunately every person in this country suffers from. They say there's no hope here. There's no hope here. Yes, we have extinguished hope for all the young people who would even think of living in this country.
Raoof sir, thank you very much for really sharing your very deep sentiments and thoughts, and I can see, and we've been hearing about it from overseas Pakistanis in particular, and obviously people across all strata in Pakistan, and somebody of such an illustrious career and intellect like yourself, talking and even contemplating like this is a huge loss to a nation or country. You would agree that any nation or a country rules through a moral and ethical superiority and a
Yes.
rule of
Yes.
law. And
Yes.
if its own institutions they start a war against its own people, unfortunately that there is no hope. But as you know, as a Muslim, hopelessness is a sin, and I'm sure that the night becomes its darkest before the dawn, and I'm sure things will improve. Do you think that these two decisions were particularly orchestrated to dampen the passion and the zeal and zest of the PTI workers to go to the polls?
Yes, I said that at the beginning of my comment. I said that part of the strategy was to try to keep people away from the polling stations. Because they know that if people turn up in large numbers, there's no way they can defeat PTI. If we can get about 60% people to the polling stations, let me assure you that we shall not only run away with a two-third majority, we could even potentially run away with a three-fourth majority. So this is a cause of major concern for them, and one of the fundamental reasons, why they were hell bent on announcing the judgment, the punishment, a few days before the election, was this, that people would be disgruntled, they would be despondent, and they would possibly opt to stay away. But let me assure you that the more they suppress, the more they oppress, the more they unleash their cruelty, their barbarism, the more people they would see at the polling stations. I'm also worried about the day of the polling itself, the 8th of February, in a situation, where we believe that lots and lots of people, would like to converge to the stations to be able to cast their votes. The administration, on the contrary, would like to stop them. So there is possible potential for a clash. And if that happens, let me tell you, with the frustrations having piled up, with so much, with people enduring so much of pain and suffering, economic and otherwise, there could be a major upheaval, and that would not be good for the country. You see, that is the reason why our consistent uh, message for our followers, for our workers, for our activists, is that just go and cast your vote peacefully and go back homes. But that depends on the attitude of the administration, whether they would allow them to cast the votes peacefully. But I hope that they don't try to stop them, because that would have the potential to create a very ugly situation, and that may not augur well for the country. You just said, that the darker the night, the brighter the rays. Uh, Faz has been a lifelong sort of bedside table reading for me, and he's talked about it beautifully in his poem Mulakat. And I've also translated 102 of his poems, which I have in the
Oh,
process
that's
of
beautiful.
publishing. But yeah, so he says, "बहुत स्याह है ये रात लेकिन बहुत स्याह है ये रात लेकिन इसी स्याही में रूनमा है वो नहरे खूं जो मेरी सदा है इसी के साये में नूर गर है वो मौज जर जो तेरी नजर है."
Beautiful. That's
So,
beautiful.
yes, I would like to replicate your thought.
Yeah.
I would hope and pray
Yeah.
that this is a dark before the light.
Yeah.
But when I address my rational code, uh, unfortunately, I don't hear a sound there. Uh, but I also understand. I am convinced that the dark cannot be eternal.
Yeah.
So yes, it must go, but I hope that it goes in a peaceful manner, and I hope that the powers that be realize that they are on a self-destruct course, which is ultimately going to damage the country. It is not going to damage Khan. It is not, definitely not, because they have not been able to damage his reputation. They have not been able to damage his popularity. It has only continued surging in the past 2 years. So they are actually damaging the country. And they must understand that if there's no country, there's going to be no you, no them. There's going to be no diktat merging from any source. So they must let sanity walk back into their discourse. They must let sanity walk back into their thinking powers, and it's time for them to take a step back and
Yeah.
ponder. What are they trying to do to this country?
what we see from abroad, from overseas, as overseas Pakistanis and the citizens of the world, that what is happening is in Pakistan is a Shia dictatorship, except a very thin veneer or a very thin veil. So there has been speculation that if things even do not go well for the deep state, there can be a martial law even. And do you think that there are any chances that the elections will not go ahead as proposed because of the so much of a passion in the PTI workers, and there can be martial law?
Number one, we are living through an undeclared martial law. I call it the undeclared martial law. That's number one. My contention has always been that Pakistan has through all the 76 years, we have had military rule in this country, either direct military rule, which has come about through coups d'etat, or indirect military rule, the one that we are seeing these days, and the ones that we saw in the past also through the Sharifs and Zardaris. They were the product of the militaries, and they were used by the military. Imran Khan is the first person, basically, who's a person who has his own mind, and he thought only and only of this country. He did not fill up his personal coffers. He did not do any such thing at all. He just thought of the ways and means, whereby he could bring some benefit to the country and its people. And this has not been a traditional thought process, when military ruled directly or it ruled indirectly. The fact is that the ruling elite, basically the beneficiary elite, which comprises less than 1% of the total population of the country, they were only concerned about their own benefit. They were only concerned about their own coffers, their own properties, their own whatever. They were never concerned about Pakistan. Never entered their thought process. Benefit to Pakistan never occurred. So basically, it's a clash between two mindsets. And I think, that is why it is going to be comparatively more difficult for them to come to an understanding, or for them to reconcile that, well, there could be leaders like Imran Khan also, because they're used to the likes of Bhuttos, they're used to the likes of Sharifs and Zardaris, and the clans, and the larger clan, that includes people like Fazlur Rahman, etc. So they understand, that they should understand, or they actually, I feel that they will not understand, that leaders could also emerge with a different mindset as compared to the ones, that they have been dealing with. And this was basically the fundamental reason of the clash that occurred, and also the intensity that the clash carried. Because you would remember that, the tradition had been, that they would kick out a prime minister, and he would spend a few days in jail, and then he would fall on his knees and say, "My baap, maaf kar dijiye."
That's right.
And he would be sent out to Saudi Arabia, to London, to wherever he wanted to. And then, from there he would start his jod tod and come back after 2, 3, 4 years, and be plonked back in the seat of power. So they expected that Khan will also do the same, that he would not be able to last in jail. But contrary to their expectations, I think Khan has grown stronger with every passing day that he spends in jail. And this is what is haunting them. So they could never imagine that there could be a leader who would act like that, who would have the courage and perseverance and will and grit and conviction that he would say, like, do whatever you want to with me. I'm not going away. I'm going to stay in this country. So this is why the severity of the punishment, and this is why the desperation that somehow they have to take care of Khan. So we expect the worst, but once again, I would like to go back to the prospect of light, peeping through the dark, and doing some good in this country.
Raoof Sahab, you've been so articulate and so beautifully eloquent, both in English and Urdu. And I'm sure that our audience, our viewers, probably would like to hear more of you in English in particular. And it is really, it is fascinating to hear your thoughts. I'm just going to take the discussion to a different angle, actually. The soul of every Pakistani is imbued with deep patriotism and love and affection for the country and its institutions, especially the Pakistan Army. However, as the things have unfolded, people have come to know that there is elephant in the room and nobody's talking about it. And of course, for the fear of coercion, the fear of reprisal, and all that. And knowing that deep state exists in every country, in every state, and it should, and it probably is. But what is the intelligentsia of deep state? Can't they simply see it that by doing what is happening, people are not going to love their establishment? They're not going to come and throw flowers when innocent people are dying left, right, and center, and so many people are in the prison.
Well, so the fundamental change has occurred in the last couple of years, basically. I think, you remember that we've had many debacles in this country. The former East Pakistan debacle, the loss of over 55% of the country itself, was a huge debacle. And even that was forgiven by the people of Pakistan out of love and affection they had for the establishment, for the military. But in the last couple of years, and this is primarily because of two factors. One is the awareness that Khan generated among the people of the country. He is, this is a great contribution he's made to Pakistan. He's made people aware of their rights, of their potential, and of so many other things, that unfortunately had always been curbed, had always been sort of, put aside. So it is because of that awareness, that they started thinking in a totally different way. And it is not a servile and subservient manner that they think now. I think they feel that, they have their rights, and they would like to fight for their rights and do something about their lives, which have been absolutely miserable in the past. So this is one factor. The other factor is that the social media. Social media has brought about a revolution in people being able to communicate their thoughts to other people. It was not there, but in the last, particularly 5 years, I think, social media has come up as one of the fundamental communication networks. So on the one hand, people are far more aware today as compared to what they were in the past. And on the other hand, they now have a means to communicate. They have a means to communicate their sentiments, and this is why we feel today that people are not just concerned about Pakistan. People are not just concerned about their own future, their own lives. They're also angry. There's a lot of anger that is seething underground, and this is where my fear is born. I feel that if this kind of does not find a catharsis, a peaceful catharsis, then it could sort of boil over in an orgy of sort of violence.
Yes.
That is what makes me afraid.
Yeah.
I hope it does not happen, but it also depends on what the other people are doing about the people, and what the other people are doing about the country itself.
Yes.
And I'm particularly disappointed, with the role of one institution. Of course, I'm not happy with the role of any institution, because they've all acted in an extremely servile and subservient manner. They have lost their independence, their freedom, as well as their dignity and self-respect also. But I'm particularly unhappy with the way the judiciary has conducted itself. Particularly since the induction of Qazi Faiz Isa, we thought that he would live by certain reputation that he had built over a period of time, but unfortunately, he has been more disappointing than anybody else who had preceded him. When the judiciary stops dispensing justice, and this is what my leader says also, Khan, that the fundamental sustaining factor in a society is the rule of law. And if everybody is not brought under the rule of law, if everybody is not equally answerable before the rule of law, then there is inequity and injustice in the society. And an unjust society is bound to falter, is bound to sort of come apart. And let me assure you, sir, there is no justice in this society. And with the conduct of the judiciary and what they have exhibited in the last couple of years, since the ouster of Khan government, let me assure you that we have a massive disaster in store for the future of the country. And I hope, like I said earlier, I hope they are able to take a step back and ponder their conduct and their performance, and they're able to sort of change it. They're able to give it a different sort of dimension, and they understand the reason of their failures, and they're able to break. I mean, in fact, I would say that they need to break this stranglehold affair, and they should come. They should walk clear of it and start taking decision on the basis of the Constitution and what the statute book says. And
Yeah.
if that happens, let me tell you, the light that you talk about, the rays of light, possibly shall come earlier than one thinks they would.